I'm Renee Williams.
And I'm Billy Thomas.
And welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. And today, Billy is out, so I just wanted to let you know that he is at a conference, but don't worry, we still have plenty of show topics today. So what we're going to do today, we have three different show topics. One is common wildlife issues that you might hear about. Jason Nally, who is the Bluegrass Region Coordinator at the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, he will be with us, joining us and telling us about several different common wildlife issues that landowners are facing. And then we have our ever popular tree of the week is back with Lori Thomas. She will be talking about a specific tree that I will let you know about later. And then we have our Outstanding Forest Steward Award presentation. We're going to see a video about that. And Pam Snyder will be here to talk about that. And she is representing the Kentucky Division of Forestry. So we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a really packed show today. So Jason, if you want to go ahead and come on.
Thank you for having me on the show today. I really greatly appreciate being able to talk to your audience and share some of the things that are going on around the region. One of the first things that I know that a lot of you all have who tune into From the Woods Today quite often have probably heard from some of our private lands biologists about some of our private lands biology programs from around the state. They're really key for providing assistance for habitat management information, technical guidance, cost share programs, those type of things. And I will touch on some of the stuff that they do later on today. But really wanted to highlight some of the things that we do within the regions. So, around the state of Kentucky, we have 5 regions based off physiographic regions. And within that, we have public lands biologists, but we also have regional biologists. And really what those regional biologists do is they monitor for wildlife disease, mainly deer and migratory birds at this time of year. And they also assist landowners with nuisance wildlife issues. So that could be deer, coyote, raccoon, muskrat, and then also work with landowners dealing with wildlife damage. Another one of the things that they deal a lot with is injured and orphan wildlife. And, just trying to figure out what might be best, what might be most interesting to you all. I reached out to several of the regional biologists here in the Bluegrass region just to ask, what are some of the issues that they're seeing? What are some of the questions that they're getting from folks? And hoping that maybe I can answer some of the questions that you all have before to try to deal with those. All right. For all of you all who have a smartphone handy, I definitely encourage you to take a picture of some of the QR codes that are going to pop up during the presentation. That's going to try to shorten the calls that you have to make to figure out who the right person to talk to is regarding a particular topic or issue. I've tried to strategically place these throughout, and I'm assured that you all will be able to access this presentation after. Like I said, diseases are one of the main thing, or one of the big things that a lot of our regional biologists get calls about. People are concerned about that, especially during this time of year. We have a lot of woodland owners who are heading out to their properties for deer hunting. Maybe they started scouting months ago, and they're starting to get a really close up look at what some of the deer are looking like on their property. One of the main diseases that we try to monitor for deer in the state of Kentucky is for epizootic hemorrhagic disease. That is a virus. Typically, we will see outbreaks of EHD, typically late summer into early fall. It's spread by a little biting midge. So typically, once our nighttime temperatures get to a certain cold, we don't really see that virus really out on the landscape. However, EHD can lead to some significant die-offs. Whenever you get a really virulent strand that hits those deer in those areas, we can see high mortality rates. It's really important for us to try to collect as many samples as we can, just to look at what type of EHD it may be, and then to also try to rule out to make sure that it's not one of the other diseases or illnesses that can impact white-tailed deer. The QR code that you see here on the screen will direct you to a reporting. So basically, if you see a sick or dead deer on your property, please let us know about that. We'll reach back out to you. Hopefully, if the sample is not too far gone, we can actually get there to the property to collect a sample, send it off to a disease diagnostics lab, and just rule out, what it was that may have been the demise of that animal. And really, that's super important for this next issue that we face with deer in the state, and that's chronic wasting disease. Currently, there are no confirmed cases of chronic wasting disease in Kentucky, but as some of the maps that I'm getting ready to show you will tell, it's knocking on our door. Chronic wasting disease is a very strange animal in that world, in that it's a prion, which is basically an abnormal protein that impacts the central nervous system of the deer. One of the biggest challenges with testing for chronic wasting disease is there's no live animal testing that can be done. And so we rely on hunters, forest owners who are hunting to help us collect those samples to be able to test for presence within the state of Kentucky. CWD is going to be a game changer for us in the state. For all of you all that love deer and watching deer or hunting deer, chronic wasting disease is definitely going to be a game changer for us in the Commonwealth. It's easily spread from animal to animal through direct contact, but they can also be spread through feces, saliva, infected carcasses. And the biggest challenge is that, that prion is going to stay present in the environment for an undetermined amount of time. We really don't know, but once it's there and it's in an area, it's likely, it would be really tough to eradicate. So being able to know when it gets here, where it is, that will really help us to manage the rate of spread of that disease across the state. Currently, the closest that we have of chronic wasting disease in the state of Kentucky is right along our Tennessee border. You can see on the map here, the Tennessee 1 and Tennessee 0, one of which is 16 miles away, another one's 8 miles away. That's really, 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 really close. So in 5 of the counties in Western Kentucky, we actually have a mandatory CWD surveillance check station set up to where during the modern firearm season on the weekends, hunters will be required to bring those deer into us for testing. Very important for us to look at, is it here? If it is here, how many individuals may have it, geographically, where are they located? And then through the rest of the state, we do have the really good opportunity for hunters who are going to be feeding that deer to their family. If they have any, it's never been shown that CWD transfers over to humans, but rightfully so. I know a lot of hunters would probably be interested in knowing, just about their deer, whether it be for the, just for the health of the herd. We do have deer sample collection stations that have been set up across the state. We have some gaps. This is one of the first few years of us trying this, but basically what we've got is we have a freezer drop off. So you harvest the animal, you get the usable meat off of it. And then you can bring that head and a portion of the neck to one of our freezer drop-off locations. We'll be able to get that deer sampled, and then we'll be able to get that information back out to you to let you know whether that deer tested positive or whether chronic wasting disease was present or not detected in that animal. Another one on the doorsteps of Kentucky, and actually we've had several confirmed cases here in the state this year, is highly pathogenic avian influenza. HPAI, it pops up. We have seen that in the populations earlier this year. It can be absolutely devastating to the poultry industry. And those of you who are forest owners that also happen to have a backyard flock of chickens or turkeys or guinea or whatever it may be, this is definitely something that you're going to want to keep an eye on. The CDC has a great website that has an updated map that's available for you to look at. You can kind of see where reports are being submitted into from Kentucky and look at the location and spread. But Definitely. If you all see groups of birds, a bird here and there, it's typically not, cause for concern, but we would like to know about them. But if you see a large number of animals there in one location, we do ask that you call us immediately. We will work with our state veterinarian or some of the regional biologists to try to go out, assess the situation, and try to determine what it was. So that was the cause of that mortality event. One of the reasons this is a forest landowner thing. Why are you talking to me about waterfowl? Totally understand that. Just the kind of the timing is necessary to get the word out the best we can. And I know a lot of you are going to be spending a lot more time out in the woods and out of doors now that ticks and chiggers are not as much of an issue. The map that you're looking at now shows the major migratory flyways in the United States of America. As you can see, mainly the Mississippi and the Atlantic flyway are what mainly influences migratory waterfowl in the state of Kentucky. And just to put that in reference, this is the most up-to-date map from the CDC that shows positive tests for HPAI in the northern states. So we know that it's there. It's the time of year whenever we start seeing that migratory push. So it's good for all of us to be aware of what's out there, what we may be seeing on the landscape. If there are, if you see dead or dying migratory waterfowl. The next thing I'm going to touch on a little bit is nuisance wildlife. That's a big one. Unfortunately for a lot of our regional biologists, we don't necessarily get people calling us for a lot of times when they're calling us, there's a reason behind it, and typically it's not necessarily a positive report on wildlife. Nuisance wildlife is definitely behind disease, one of the biggest things that we receive calls on here in the bluegrass region especially. And as most of you probably could have already guessed, white-tailed deer leads that, along with coyotes, black vultures, raccoons, and muskrats tend to be the ones that we get the majority of the calls for. Deer, they're in all 120 counties, and in most of those counties, they are at a level that sometimes exceeds human carrying capacity, which means that there's probably still some natural resources there that could allow the population to expand even further. But the tolerance for that population expanse is not necessarily okay with the folks who live there. Predominantly, these damage complaints come from more of our agricultural setting, to where they can receive significant loss of crop yields due to damage directly from white-tailed deer. Any of you who are managing new tree plantings, who may be involved in trying to create orchards, you are going to have to try to find some way to probably in your integrated pest management plan, try to factor in that you also are going to have to probably deal with deer issues as well. Hunting, by and large, is the most proven to be the most effective method for deer population management here in the state of Kentucky. Repellents will get you through a short period of time, but they're not necessarily a long-term fix. Same with scare tactics. A lot of those, the deer are going to get used to those pretty quick. High value crops, orchards, vineyards, those type of things, you're probably going to be looking at the need for fencing. That's really the best long-term strategy for dealing with deer issues, especially if you're in an area where hunting is either not realistic because of close proximity to other people, or just lack of cover or space to effectively hunt those animals. Deer are going to be, fencing is probably going to be your best option if economically feasible. We do have in our zone 1 and zone 2 deer counties, there's a pretty liberalized availability to harvest antlerless deer in those counties. But in some of our zone 3 and zone 4 counties, especially, there is quite a limit placed on the amount of antlerless deer that can be taken off of the landscape during legal hunting seasons. We do have in place control measures for severe damage, and that would be in the form of in-season control permits for damage. And then in rare circumstances, we look at out-of-season control permits for damage as well. You as a landowner have you are legally protected to be able to protect your property from damage from most wildlife species. Say, for instance, if you are actively watching deer destroy, some of your property, then you have the right to be able to eliminate that damage immediately. The thing is that you will need to reach out to the county contact for your county and report that animal within 24 hours of being harvested. Now, if you need to transport that off-site or something like that, you'll definitely want to make sure that you have the proper paperwork through our law enforcement division to be able to transport that animal or to be able to take it to a deer processor or something like that. So just make sure that you stay above the law whenever, or kind of stay within the law whenever you're doing that type of management activity. A couple of other ones that we receive reports on or complaints on from time to time are going to be raccoons, coyotes, and muskrats. Obviously with coyotes, crop depredation is not as huge as deer, but if you are a watermelon farmer or a melon farmer, there's a good chance that you're going to see some issues from coyotes. And they also can do a number on irrigation lines. So if you have a young tree planting or nursery that you're going to be irrigating, your coyotes and foxes, keep an eye on them because they can chew through some of that rubber hosing and make some significantly costly repairs. Attacks on pets, especially in that urban suburban area, is definitely a big one. Disease transmission, mainly looking at canine distemper. And then livestock depredation, young sheep, lambs, whenever you're looking at chickens, those type of things, coyotes can definitely do a number on those. Raccoons, definitely the same thing. A big group of raccoons in a corn patch can definitely do a number on that. And they can also raid all the work you put into your garden all summer. So they can be an issue for a lot of folks as well. Muskrats, they can definitely compromise your dams of small lakes, ponds, whatever it may be, pretty quick. And as you can see in that picture in the bottom right corner, if you were to drive across that and it fell through, you could easily lose a vehicle into the pond as well. If you have cattle or something like that, you could lead to some injuries to your livestock. I'm going to touch a little bit on coyotes and bobcats. I'm going to kind of lump them in there together because a lot of the same techniques you would use to kind of coexist with bobcats are going to be the same ones that you would use for coyotes. Bobcats, kind of like coyotes, bobcats used to not really be found in most of the counties. They're historically native to Kentucky, but in the past 10, 15 years, their range has really expanded and now can be found almost in every county in the state, and a lot of those in pretty high numbers as well. Before 1970s, it was really rare to even see a coyote in Kentucky, but over that time, now coyotes pretty much reign throughout the Commonwealth. They're habitat generalists, and they can live and do well in just about any environment. They're actually even really well adapted to live in the cities. Bobcats not as much, but we do get reports of bobcats within Lexington, Fayette County area, for instance. There are bobcats that are often sighted by homeowners in that area. This map here kind of shows the expansion route of coyotes across North America. And you can see there in the 1900s, 1950s, 1940s, and the 2005, that's when we started really seeing those big pushes into the Midwest and Southeast. And, that range expansion is pretty incredible for a species and just goes to show how adaptable coyotes can be. In a city, coyotes don't really have hunting, they don't have trapping. With backyard bird feeders and garbage, you have mice, you got rats, you've got a lot of good food source cover in people's old outhouses or outbuildings and under the porches. So believe it or not, you can actually have some excellent coyote habitat in urban areas. And a lot of our regional biologists, especially in the bluegrass, they get a lot of calls of, there is a coyote in my backyard, what can I do? Really, a lot of the same general rules that apply to coyotes are going to be, you can move that all the way over through a lot of our wildlife species here in the state of Kentucky. And so here's just a kind of a few kind of rules to kind of help you coexist with wildlife a little better. First one, don't leave your pet food outside. You know, if you do have animals that you feed out of doors, make sure whenever they've consumed what they want, you pick that dish and bring it back inside. Now, the next one's a lot harder for a lot of folks, and that's bring your bird feeders inside. That's a big challenge. I know that I'm definitely guilty of leaving mine out. But by leaving it out over the course of the evening, you get grains that fall down on the ground, fruits that may fall on the ground, and coyotes are going to be drawn either to that food themselves, or the rodent species are going to be drawn into that area. So, you know, if you're seeing things like coyotes, bobcats in and around your yard and you're not okay with that, that might be one of the tricks that you use to help encourage them to go somewhere else. Definitely small cats you know, could potentially be prey to coyotes, small dogs as well. So make sure that if you know that there are coyotes in the area, that you supervise those animals while they were outside. Cats especially, you want to try to keep those indoors as much as possible. And one unique thing is definitely clean up your dog droppings out of your yard. Coyotes will come by to check those out, so it can bring them closer to your home. And another big thing is just talk to your neighbors. If you educate yourself about how to coexist with wildlife, maybe share that with other people in your neighborhood. And if everybody working together, it's a much greater success rate as far as us being able to live side by side all the wildlife species that are found here in the state of Kentucky. Another big one, obviously, is garbage containers and compost bins. That goes twofold with raccoons. The barbecue grills, if you keep seeing animals on your deck all the time, that might be one reason why they're up there. They're smelling that grease in your barbecue grill and trying to find a way to get to that goodness. Not to fear if you see a coyote out and about. I mean, they try to get away from us typically as fast as they possibly can. The same with bobcats. However, coyotes who have been born and raised in and around people their whole entire lives, they may not have as much of a fear. Definitely true with coyotes who have been fed intentionally by homeowners. So a couple things to keep in mind if you run across a bobcat or a coyote is just don't panic. They're probably just checking you out and they mean no harm. Definitely don't approach them. Don't try to take pictures of them up close. Certainly, without a doubt, do not feed them. Don't run away from them. Don't turn your back. Always keep your eyes on them. And, you know, for the most part, if you see one, you might want to clap your hands, yell at it, those type of things, try to get that to move off sight. Unless you see that animal is obviously sick or it has pups or appears to be injured. In that case, you may want to give one of us a call and just try to get some continued guidance, maybe even some better resources on how to deal with that situation. For folks that are dealing with mammal issues, fur bearer issues, so that would be your raccoons and possums and skunks and coyotes and bobcats. Really probably one of your best DIY options is going to be acquiring some foothold traps or some lethal traps and learning how to safely use them, not only for yourself, but the animal that you're trying to trap, and then non-target species as well. And you know, that tool that you have there will be good forever. Traps don't necessarily rust out if you take care of them properly. And with a handful of traps, you can deal with a lot of the issues that most folks are going to face there on their property. The advantage of traps versus trying to utilize firearms is that the traps work all night long while a lot of these animals are out foraging for food. You're going to have a tough time staying up all night long trying to do that yourself. So There are bag limits and season dates for people who to trap. So definitely make sure that you look at your guide. There's also a maximum, there's standards for what types of traps you can use. So before you get on Amazon and try to start buying this type of stuff, you may want to check to make sure that what you're going to be buying is legal. You could just pass this along to one of our licensed fur trappers here in the state. A lot of people are always looking for increased access for hunting and trapping efforts. So if you are, as a landowner, are dealing with a nuisance issue, there's probably someone in your community that will help you resolve that. This QR code here will take you to the list of licensed fur trappers who are looking to trap certain species in whatever county you live in. You may reach out to them to see if they may want to come out and help with any issues you may be facing. These are not KDFW, Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources employees. They are just individuals who have signed up on our website to show that they are interested in trapping whatever species that may be. Another one, and especially this is more of a severe situation, is you may look into contracting out a nuisance wildlife control operator. They are going to be licensed professionals who can come in and assess the situation, probably give you a quote about how much it's going to cost, and they are going to hopefully be able to maybe eliminate the species. And in certain cases, they may be able to make any structural repairs or anything that may need to happen to a building, for instance, to make sure that's the last time you have that issue, which is, it might be a really nice resource for landowners out there. Starting to run a little bit low on time, so I'm going to kind of skip through some of this the bobcat biology stuff. Definitely a fascinating species, tons of resources out there to learn more. My contact information is going to be at the end of this presentation, so if there's anything that I've went by real fast or just didn't cover it all, feel free to reach out to me. Would love to have that conversation with you. Again, as we've been talking, I've been talking about the roles of the regional wildlife biologist. Here's a map of that again with some of the contact information. The last thing I'm going to touch on real briefly is injured, sick, and orphaned wildlife. We definitely get a lot of calls on this, especially in the spring and early summer months. And there are professionals in the state that handle wildlife rehabilitation. This QR code right here can send you a list of whatever species it is and whatever county in the state. It will direct you to the closest licensed wildlife rehabilitator that we have. We really hoped and try to make sure that the wild animals in the state are kept wild. So just because it may look orphaned, it may not be. The mother may be close by and is just fearful of you. They're not going to come in. In the instance of deer and rabbits, the females are probably only around the fawn just a couple times a day just to provide some nursing. But by and large, she's going to stay away from that fawn just because she doesn't want to draw attention. The same is true with a lot of our other mammal species as well. So just because if you see a small animal there, that doesn't always necessarily mean that it's been orphaned. If you are trapping nuisance animals on your property, it's probably not a good idea to take that animal and transport it somewhere else. You could inadvertently be spreading disease that way, raccoon distemper, for instance, tularemia in rabbits. That's a great way for spreading that vector across the landscape. So we ask that, typically we just don't do that. And, if you do have doubt, leave it alone. There is one of the beautiful parts about living in a forested area or being able to spend a lot of time in the forest is that we do have a lot of close interactions with wild species. It's one of the reasons why many of us became forest landowners to begin with. But one of the things that we want to make sure of is that we create a place for wild animals that is safe and healthy for them too. So, all right. So much more I would have liked to have talked about, but I realized that I am out of time. This is my contact information. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, by all means do. Would love to hear from you. And hopefully I'll have 5 minutes for questions and answers.
Sure, we can give you some time. There are a couple of questions. Someone was wanting to know about wild pigs, and someone else asked about armadillos.
Okay, yeah, wild pigs. Fortunately, we have a very, very, very robust program here in the state of Kentucky that, if you see one, call us immediately. And we will definitely get a trap, but get a crew out to be able to monitor that, do some camera surveys to see what you got, and try to strategize the best way to eliminate that risk. Don't shoot into them. That's one thing that any of us are going to ask you to do is please don't shoot into them. We want to try to remove those as quickly as possible. If you start busting those sounders up and they're moving around and the pigs are dispersed a lot more, it makes it a lot more difficult. But if we can get them on bait really fast, we can get traps or snare setups there. We get a much better chance of eliminating that problem. Armadillos, I would hear about armadillos forever and ever and ever. And I thought, there's maybe every now and then, but I am starting to see them. I mean, whenever I travel out to Western Kentucky, it's not uncommon at all to see them, dead on the road. And whenever I was working in Jefferson County specifically, we would get them sometimes on the road up here sometimes too. So I think that, that's one of the things with a warming climate, or, it's going to be 75 degrees this weekend, that's going to increase the chances that they're going to be able to survive and potentially reproduce. I mean, I know they already are in certain parts of the state, but it's becoming not uncommon to see armadillos in a lot of the Commonwealth.
Okay. And let's see, the next question is, do I need a permit to hunt nuisance deer on my own property?
Are you a landowner? If you're a landowner, or you are a tenant or a direct, like a child of the landowner or whatever, you do not need a license to hunt animals on your property. Like you're license exempt basically, and so that would transfer over into the nuisance realm as well. That still means that you would need to call that animal in. And we really like to get samples off as many animals as we possibly can. So we may be like, do you care if we save the head off of that animal or something like that? Just because chronic wasting disease is so important to us, right. That we would love to have that back and forth with you before you do it. That way that we can hopefully try to get, as you're trying to rid your nuisance, we get a little bit of data out of it as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then the next question is, what is the best way to determine the appropriate balance of wildlife mentioned? It says some populations of coyotes can be appropriate in our woodlands, right?
Yeah, I mean, they are here to stay. It's not, I mean, if you look at the history of coyotes in the United States, I mean, we've found that they're here to stay. They've tried aggressive bounty programs in the early days. They've did a smear campaign through the Looney Tunes yeah, coyotes are here to stay. If you eliminate coyotes off of your property, that just means there's more resources for the remaining females that are there. She's likely going to have a larger litter size. More of those pups are going to survive. And within one generation, they're going to repopulate the area that you just eliminated the coyote. One of the things that I try to press upon with landowners is if you have coyotes and they're not causing a lot of problems, they're not getting into your sheep, they're not killing chickens, they're not doing some of these behavioral type of things, you may like that group of coyotes. Because if you eliminate those, and then you may have another group of coyotes in that it's already a learned behavior that they specifically target that type of prey. So definitely, but is there an ideal number? It's all habitat dependent. It really is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it looks like that's all the questions we have, but we greatly appreciate you being on, and maybe we can get you to come on again and talk about some other issues that you might want to spend a little longer on.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the technical difficulties there. It's this far into virtual presentations, I would have it nailed, but alas, I do not.
It happens, no worries. Thank you again for joining us and for your presentation. All right, so moving on, we are going to talk about our tree of the week. We haven't had one in a while, and we are looking forward to a new tree of the week. So tell us what tree of the week we're talking about today.
Hey, Renee, it's great to see you again. Great to be back on. It's been a couple months. So this week I delved back into oaks. We have so many of them in the state, over 20 different species, and I chose a red oak this time. Shumard oak is our tree of the week. And so we'll go ahead and play the video video, and then if there's any questions, yeah, we'll see if we've got anything. But enjoy shoe-marred oak. I'm Laurie Thomas from the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm here with the tree of the week, the shoe-marred oak. Quercus shumardii is a member of the red oak group and one of the largest southern red oaks. Other common names are spotted oak, schneck oak, shoe-marred red oak, southern red oak, and swamp red oak. Shoe-marred oak is a moderately fast-growing tree and relatively long-lived, living 200 to 400 years. It is a large tree that attains heights of 100 to 125 feet and up to 4 to 5 feet in diameter. Trees typically have a long, straight trunk and a wide spreading open crown, and it can be confused with northern red oak and scarlet oak. Shoe-marred oak makes a large, handsome shade tree in the appropriate urban setting. The wood is considered superior to many other red oaks, but is generally mixed and sold with other red oaks. The acorns are also an important wildlife food. Shoe-marred oak is found from North Carolina to northern Florida and west to central Texas, and up into southern Illinois, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In Kentucky, it's found across the state except for the far eastern portion. It is a scattered tree and not found in pure stands. It grows in a number of soil types, but is generally considered a bottomland tree that grows in well-drained, loamy soils. It is considered shade intolerant. At maturity, shoe-marred oak appears to have some allelopathic properties as it seems to exclude the growth of competing understory vegetation. Shoe-marred oak is deciduous with simple, alternately arranged leaves, as you can see in the photo in the top left. The leaves are 4 to 7 inches long and usually with 5 to 9 lobes that each have a bristle tip. The sinuses between the lobes extend more than halfway to the midrib. They are shiny dark green above and pale green below, and fall color is usually an attractive red to burgundy. As with other oaks, shoe-marred oak is monoecious, meaning a tree produces both male and female flowers. The male flowers are on long hanging catkins that are clustered together, and the female flowers are either single or paired in short stalks. The flowers appear between March and April and usually with or just before the leaves, and the flowers are wind pollinated. The fruit is an acorn that is single or paired. It's egg-shaped and about 3/4 to 1 1/4 inch long. The acorn cap is bowl-shaped with slightly fuzzy scales. The cap covers a little less than a third of the acorn. The acorn ripens in the fall during September or October of its second year. The acorns are dispersed by wind and seed-hoarding wildlife such as squirrels and will germinate the following spring. Shoe-marred oak begins seed production around age 25 with optimum seed production around 50 years. Trees produce good seed crops between 2 and 3 years. The bark is gray-brown, and as the tree grows, it develops dark, deep furrows with light gray, scaly ridgetops. Shoe-marred oak wood is hard, strong, and heavy, and while it is mechanically superior to other red oak wood, it is marketed as red oak and not distinguished commercially from other red oak species. The heartwood is light to medium brown, commonly with a reddish cast, and the sapwood is white to light brown. It is ring porous with 2 to 4 rows of large early wood pores, and those are the pores that are formed in the spring, and you can see those in the photo, with numerous small late wood pores, and those are the pores formed later in the summer, and the growth rings are distinct. The pores are so large and open that it's said that a person can blow into one end of the wood and the air will come out of the other end, provided that the grain runs straight enough. It is rated as non-durable to perishable with poor insect resistance. In general, red oak wood does not have the level of decay and rot resistance that white oak possesses. Oaks are listed as one of the top 10 trees for wildlife, according to the National Wildlife Federation. They are the larval host for more than 500 different lepidopteran species, including the imperial moth, the banded hair streak, and the dusky wing. And the acorns of the shoe-marred oak serve as mast for numerous species of birds and mammals, including white-tailed deer and fox squirrel, as well as numerous birds, including some wild turkey, waterfowl, and songbirds. Additionally, the trees provide cover as oaks commonly retain some of their leaves late into the fall.
Red oak wood is arguably the most popular hardwood in the United States. It is hard, strong, and moderately priced, and it's used in cabinetry, furniture making, interior trim, flooring, and veneer. Shumard oak is also planted as a large ornamental in parks and large yards. The national champion Shumard oak as of 2021 is in Powell County, Kentucky. The tree is 117 feet tall with a 313-inch circumference and 105-foot crown spread. And if you'd like to know more about champion trees, check out American Forest's National Champion Trees or check out the Kentucky Division of Forestry Champion Trees. Now for a few fun facts about Shumard oak. The acorns of the Shumard oak are edible once the tannins are boiled out. If the tannins are not boiled out, the acorns can have a low toxicity. Shumard oak can be confused with northern red oak. Shumard oak typically has 5 to 9 lobes, a shiny surface, and sinuses that extend more than halfway to the midrib, whereas northern red oak typically has 7 to 11 lobes and a much duller surface, and the sinuses only extend about 1/3 or maybe halfway to the midrib. Shumard oak is named after a Texas geologist named Benjamin Franklin Shumard. The scientific name Quercus is Latin for oak, and the species name Shumardii is in honor of Benjamin Franklin Shumard. I hope you get the opportunity to get out into your woodlands, a local park or neighborhood, and see this wonderful red oak.
Oh, thank you, Lori. We greatly appreciate that. And I know you're an extension forester with our department.
Mhm.
And we did have some questions that have come up too.
Awesome.
Says, which oaks might work best in clayish soil along streams? Ephemeral.
In ephemeral stream. So again, we're going to look at something in a Shumard oak. It does well in a variety of soils, and it is considered more of a bottomland oak. So it would potentially do well, as would pin oak. It is known, that's what we've planted a lot of our neighborhoods where you have all this clay type soil, and it's done well, especially around Lexington, I'm assuming, in other neighborhoods around the state as well. Another one would also be like swamp white oak. We're thinking of our oaks that don't mind their feet wet, like a little heavier soil. So definitely pin, Shumard, and possibly swamp white oak, ones to think about.
Yeah. And I know you said that the red oak was superior.
Mhm.
So why don't they just market it as Shumard oak?
So and if you remember on the second slide or whatever, it's a scattered tree in our forest. We don't ever find it in pure stands. So when we actually look at the U.S. Forest Service forest inventory data, and you look at all of our oaks and looking on our red oaks, it's actually the 5th stem, the commonest stem. Northern red oak is the most common. Then we'll find black oak, and this is by a considerable difference in numbers. And then it drops down to scarlet oak, and then southern red, and then Shumard. And Shumard's like half as many as there are southern reds. So we just don't have big pure stands of it. So therefore, the wood is, yes, maybe technically or mechanically superior, but not enough of it, so it gets lumped in with the other red oaks. And most of our red oaks will be kind of lumped together depending on the product. So
got it. All right. Well, you know what? I really appreciate you doing that for us, because we've missed our tree of the weeks, and
I've missed doing them. I need to catch up. We've still got plenty more oaks. We haven't hit the ashes. I guess still got to do some ashes. I think I've done most of the hickories, but we still have a few more out there.
So great. We always look forward to you doing it. So thanks for doing it.
Great. Thank you. You'll have a good day.
All right, so moving on, we have our Outstanding Forest Steward of the Year Award, and we have Pam Snyder, who's going to be talking to us a little bit about that. Pam, we greatly appreciate you joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you tell us a little bit about what is the Outstanding Forest Stewardship Award?
I can do that. The National Forest Stewardship Program recommends that each state's Forest Stewardship Program recognize an outstanding forest steward. And it is the division's goal to annually recognize a forest steward for their forest stewardship accomplishments and to provide publicity and recognition of the Forest Stewardship Program and to promote Kentucky's forest resources among private forest landowners. One of the things is in this award is we have a panel that's made up of partners that represent the Kentucky Division of Forestry, the University of Kentucky Department of Forestry and Natural Resources, Natural Resource Conservation Service, and the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. In order for a landowner to be nominated for this award, they have to have completed a forest stewardship plan on their property, and they have to be a certified Kentucky forest steward for a period of 3 years prior to the nomination. And they have to be actively implementing and managing their forest stewardship plan. So this year's, we were able to get out and do a tour this year of Lowell Hamilton's property. He is located in Breathitt County. In general, he has done a lot of work on his property. He owns 2 tracts. He's been managing his woodland for 34 years, has a total of 496 acres. He's been a forest steward since March of 2000. He has done forest stand improvement, 150 acres across his first tract, and tree of heaven removal. And he's also done more forest stand improvement and regeneration harvest on his second tract. So let's go take a tour of Lowell's property today.
Well, we're going to go ahead and show the video, and it looks like what we're going to do is Brandon Howard, who is over the Kentucky Division of Forestry, and then a lot of you all too that was part of that video. So we will go ahead and share that.
Folks, let's meet Kentucky's 2022 Forest Steward of the Year, Lowell Hamilton, who lives in Breathitt County, Kentucky.
We're here in Breathitt County on Lowell Hamilton's farm and his tree farm, and there's several of us here today. And so I'm Brandon Howard. I'm the director of the Kentucky Division of Forestry, and I also serve as Kentucky State Forester. And we have Jake Hall, who's the branch manager of the Hazard branch. And then we have Jason Hunt, who's the chief forester there in the Hazard branch. And then we have Pam Snyder, who's the section supervisor over the stewardship program with our agency. And then of course we have Lowell Hamilton. Lowell, I appreciate you having us out here today.
Well, we appreciate you coming, and glad to have you with us and all the work you do to help the people in the county and the state out. And if you want to, we'll just go look around at some of the practices we've been doing and show you what we've got done and what we need to do.
We're here today to present you with the 2022 Outstanding Forest Steward of the Year Award. So this award's given by the Kentucky Division of Forestry, and the finalists for this award are judged by a group of panelists from the Division of Forestry, the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, the University of Kentucky, and then Natural Resource Conservation Service, NRCS. So there's a lot of folks that's looked at your application and feel that that you're doing outstanding work out here, and we're going to present you with the award today. But you know, this and to start off this award, you're nominated by a stewardship by a forester within the Division of Forestry. And so here out of the Hazard branch, our Hazard branch office, you know, here in Breathitt County, that falls within their jurisdiction, and they nominated you for this award. And you know, it's really important that folks have forest stewardship plans on their property, because and to have them completed by a service forester, and that's what we do at the Division of Forestry. You know, growing good timber, your forest resources, it's a long rotation age. It's not like, you know, it's not like,
a few years.
It's right. It's not like crops. you know, corn or whatever, it's a year or so. And but with timber here, with hardwoods, we're looking at 75 years, 80 years, and so you know, you're planning for the future, and so it takes a little bit of work. But Lowell, the information we got there, you started managing managing your forest resource in about 1994, and then you say you purchased this property in about the year 2000?
About 2000 we bought
Okay.
this property.
And so, so for this particular property we're at here, here in Breathitt County, you probably started doing forest stewardship on here about that time, or a little bit after.
About
maybe.
that time, a little bit later, maybe the next year,
Okay.
somewhere in that neighborhood, and
All right.
worked with the Division of Forestry, and we also worked with some people that, you know, we had Trust Joyce here at the time, and they had a forestry specialist, and he helped us a little bit too. And
Okay.
so we use all the people that's knowledgeable about what we can do and what we should do to sustain our forest.
Gotcha. So why don't you take a little bit of time and describe what maybe some of the management objectives you have for your forest on this property?
Well, my objective is to have some timber and production in the future from my children and my grandchildren. I know some of this, my children may never see some of it, you know, harvested, but my grandchildren should be able to harvest some of it in several years from now, and that is my main objective, to have the timber grow and produce, you know, as much as we can, you know, for what we've got.
Yeah.
We'd like to get as many board feet per acre that we can
Right.
get.
You got to start early and make
Gotta-
those plans.
And it just don't happen, you know. We've done quite a few projects to help improve our timber production. We've done some timber stand improvement.
Okay.
We've also did some regeneration, that we had some few acres that just didn't have any good timber on it, so we did a little bit of that, and
Kind of had to hit the
invasive-
reset button and
right,
start your
and
timber
started over.
Yeah.
And invasive, we've had quite a few invasive species that we've tried to get rid of. And of course, doing all this, we did a little bit of wildlife management too. Built a few watering holes.
Yeah.
Done some work with the wildlife.
So what's one of the invasive species you've taken off this property, or tried to anyway?
Well, the main one is tree of heaven, and we've had quite a bit of it. And we've got rid of quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
Still got some.
All right. Well, we appreciate all the work that you've done to further, you know, forest stewardship, and your property is quite impressive.
Well, I tell you, I really appreciate all the help that we get from the Forestry Service, NRCS, and Wildlife, and all of you agencies. I mean, it's really an advantage for landowners that want to improve their forest, and
Yeah.
I appreciate all of you, what you
Okay.
do.
Yeah, well, and it takes all of us working together. It takes landowners working together to, you know, to make this happen over the region and throughout the whole state. But you know, it starts with landowners like you. So we
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Well, we appreciate you too.
So I'm gonna present you with this award.
Okay.
For the outstanding Kentucky Forest Stewardship Award, and what a better place to receive it,
Well,
right here on the ridge on your property in Breathitt County. So,
well, I really appreciate it. I appreciate all that you do,
yep. And
and all the people in the Division of Forestry.
yeah, we got a good team and got a lot of good partners. And so how about we go from here and maybe try to look at some other areas, some other work you've done, and
Well, that'll
let's
be
see
good.
it firsthand. That
That'll
work?
be real good.
All right. Congratulations, Lowell.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great video, and I actually see that Lowell's actually on here, so that's awesome. And I really appreciate that he watched it today. And you know, it sounds like it's not a very easy task to become to get this award.
Well, it's not as hard as you think, because you basically need to start with a forest management plan. And once you start doing that, you can work with multitude of partners like Fish and Wildlife and NRCS and the Farm Service Agency to help do your management activities on your farm. And then next thing you know, the forester is nominating him and certifying him as a forest steward. And then, as you said, as you heard the speech from Lowell, that years go by and you're looking at 80 to 100-year rotations for management and growing timber.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see it. It's a long process. It's not just something that you do and in 5 years, hey, you're set to go.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Thank you for allowing us to show the video today.
Sure, we greatly appreciate it. And, congratulations, Lowell. We greatly appreciate all the work that you've done to your property and for all the woodland owners out there.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Well, we've had a wonderful show today, and we greatly appreciate you watching. And if you want to, you can go to fromthewoodstoday.com and binge watch all of our shows if you'd like. We have on fromthewoodstoday.com, we have every show we've ever done. It's over 100 shows at this point. And Lori Thomas has got over 70 trees on there as well. So, but if you have a question or have any comments that you'd like to make on that, fromthewoodstoday.com is also a link that you can fill out a survey or ask us any questions that you would like. So again, we greatly appreciate it. And please join us each Wednesday at 11 o'clock. We do this every week. Until then, take care. Bye.
From the woods today.